Good evening. You have tuned into The Ties That Bind. We're discussing today, our discussion is on the youth and their religious beliefs, their religion. I think we're going to call it a spiritual journey because I don't think they believe in a whole lot of religion. But Danielle, we have Danielle, our guest co-host, in here today, and she's going to be discussing that. She's going to spearhead this part of the journey. Our goal is to bring out a discussion, and so that everybody can get on one page, and so we can just discuss what our ideas are. I know that I forget the scripture. I think it's Proverbs. I think it's Proverbs 27:17, and it says, "Iron sharpens iron," and as one person sharpens another. So this is why we're getting together. This is our goal, to get together so that we can discuss and get stronger as we go. So I'm going to introduce our co-host, and they'll bring in Danielle. We have James. He is our bridge, and then we have Tiffany, who is our strategizer. So good evening, you guys.
Good evening. How are you?
Good. And you're a little low.
I'm sorry?
You're a little low.
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, that's a little better. That's much, much better.
Okay, I missed you guys.
Oh,
I missed you guys too.
That sounds wonderful. Okay.
But yeah, but I'm excited to get this talk started for sure. I think I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about it and hear you guys' thoughts about it.
Okay.
Right.
James?
So I guess I'll go ahead and start off. Oh, James, go ahead.
Oh, I don't know.
Fine. What's going on, everybody? I'm James Miller. I'm here to use myself as a tool to bridge the gap between the differences we have in our families and in our communities. I believe one day that we will see that our problems are more the same than different, and we will finally get a chance to come together. Go ahead, Danielle.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, I'm Danielle. I am still on my path to figuring out what it is that I can contribute, or what I would like to call myself in this process. But for the time being, I'm just going to be a guest co-host, and I'll be talking about spiritual identity. And I will try to give a nice take on what our youth is thinking and some things that I have gone through personally, and try to help everyone out with that.
Okay. So we're gonna turn this over to you, and what we want to tell people. This I don't know whether I've already said it. These are based on facts. We've gone on, we've gotten our facts, but then these are our opinions and these are our experiences that we have gone through. And so we wanted to discuss it with you. So we're going to turn it over to you, Danielle, and you can let us know where we go.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I do want to start off by saying thank you for having me. It's been such a wonderful journey these past 2 weeks, joining the Ties That Bind. It's just kind of interesting because the subject has kind of come up in the middle of the beginning of my spiritual journey. I feel like I've always been religious, but I haven't always recognized that I am and was being spiritual at the time. So up until about a year and a half ago, I can't remember really acknowledging to myself and following through on my spiritual path. I've always known who I was, and I know who I want to be. Which is someone who brings peace and truth into others' lives, someone who is a server and a leader, a person with a positive outlook on life and a positive attitude. And this is really who I've always known myself to be. It's one thing to kind of know who I am and, to know who you are, but it's another thing to kind of practice it. And that's kind of something I've really been working on throughout the past year and a half, is making sure that I follow through on these ideas that I have about myself.
Okay.
And I guess, once my mom had passed away, may she rest in peace, it's almost like I lost half of me. And and then, my dad had gotten sick and remarried and kind of moved out of the house all within a matter of months of my mom passing. And so at that time, I had kind of reached a very dark place. And it's kind of the darkest place I'd ever thought I would be. Wow. So, with me being 21, I was still at home, and I thought I knew who I was. But now with all that going on, I kind of wasn't sure anymore. So I kind of had to redirect and refigure out all those things. So I had to give myself a deadline. for how long I was going to allow myself to wallow in my self-pity. And I guess I kind of gave myself about a year to kind of try to figure it all out. I didn't really use all of that time. I'd probably say I maybe used about 8 months or so to just kind of feel what I was going to feel and then eventually start to dissect that. And although I will be healing for the rest of my life, I really had to kind of rein in and figure out who I was going to be again. So I eventually started to pray again, which is my first step. So I turned back to my religion because I really kind of got out of that religious practice of going to church, saying your prayers, and, you know, being around a community of people. And really that was just because with all the anger and the pain and the confusion, it was the only thing that made sense to me. So through my prayers, I prayed for peace. I prayed for clear vision and clear mind. I prayed for God to show me and to open up my mind. And that's when I really started to recognize that I was a sensitive spiritual being. I took the spiritual aspect of my religion, which is the fact that Christ lives in me and that I must live accordingly. And I started to practice that. And I truly believe that it's in our dark times that we turn towards a higher being. And for me, I turn towards Christ. So I believe that there is goodness in me, and it helps me out of my darkest place. It also, I feel like through those dark times, you also find like our spiritual discipline. And I feel like that spiritual discipline is really what kind of has to help make up your spiritual identity.
Yeah.
So other things that I prayed for were, I prayed for people that I was angry at. I asked for understanding and compassion, and I literally sat outside of myself, and I kind of picked apart the things that I could be doing better. And I said to myself that maybe if I started doing things for the people that made me uneasy, then maybe it would change my view of that person. And in return, my heart will change. So at the end of the day, my goal is to live a balanced life. So life does not make it easy. So spirituality for me and a handful of my friends that I was so blessed to be able to discuss this with, it is the way that we view and express ourselves through the practice that we believe. No, through the practice of things that we believe. So spirituality can be broken down into like your mind, your body, and soul. And what we choose to practice, whether that's meditation or going to church, diving deeper into yourself, searching for a feeling that that we aren't going to find on earth. We are always searching for that feeling, and sometimes we're searching for it in the wrong places, like the youth community is kind of searching for it in the wrong places. I don't think that we're going to find that at a club, and I don't think that we're going to find that necessarily through other people. I think that we have to find it within ourselves, within our universe, and we have to kind of ask, whatever it is, whatever you believe, you kind of have to ask them for that guidance. And I don't think it's going to be instant. I think that our generation definitely is a instant gratification generation, so we kind of want to feel that instantly. Like if we're not feeling it right then, we're going to move on to something else. I think that's one issue that one thing that we struggle with. And I think that it's also going to take a while for them to explore their inner workings and find their inner self. So last week, we talked about how our youth is trying to figure out who we are. We talked about how our Black community struggles with their identity, and we left off at the beginning of our thoughts of the spirituality versus religion debate. I've read a few articles, and I've listened to a few TED Talks throughout the week, and they talked about how our generation is stating that we are more spiritual than we are religious. And I watched one TED Talk that was given by Pastor Steve Miller from South Dakota, and he brings up a good point that while we're losing religion to spirituality, we're also losing our sense of community. And I would have to agree with him on some level, because the way our generation sees spirituality is kind of, and I think selfish is a bad word. I think there's another word for me to use, but it is kind of on a selfish level, because we are focusing on building ourselves and not building a community. And unless you have a serving spirit, it's less likely that you're going to want to reach out and do so, such as building a community. But I also believe that we do but I also believe that we do build communities through the things that we're interested in, whether it's through a hobby or through work or an online community. I will admit that this is one thing that I struggle with as well, which is trying to build a community that works for me and that I can also work for them, because it's kind of a give and take type thing. And I have joined and there are a few people that I do feel connected to, and there's some that I don't, and that's something I'm okay with, because you're not going to really connect with everyone. But at least, there's the steps that are being taken to do so. So I'd love to start here, and I would love to ask first, how do you guys define spirituality? And second, do you guys think that the youth is having trouble with religion? And what are the struggles that come along with that? And what do we think our biggest issue is with these ideas?
That's good. Can you start with number one? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I've been itching to get into this conversation because I listened last week eagerly, and I found myself answering the radio like you guys can hear me. I agree. I'm not a millennial. I'm kind of on the cusp of Generation X and Y, if you follow the whole generational thinking or whatever. But I do believe that there's a difference between religion and spirituality, and I consider myself more spiritual than religious, because in my opinion, religion is a social construct. It's something that's used to control the masses, in my opinion. Okay, now this is just my opinion. You can send me hate mail if you need to, but this is just my opinion. Hold on one second. Chris. Okay. The baby's crying. Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry. I apologize. So I do agree. And you ask a lot of questions, Danielle, so if I miss anything, just kind of get me back on track. But I do think that it's important, to me, more important to be spiritually connected than religiously connected. Because like I said, religion is a social construct. It's something that man created based off of, one or two people's opinions on how things should be. The Catholic Church is an excellent example of religion where, in my opinion, people are so out of touch spiritually. They go in and they're doing all these, you go in, you stand up, you sit down, you stand up, you sit down, you stand up, you sit down, but there's no connection.
Yes.
You're saying, you're reading out of your hymnals and you're saying all these prepared prayers to all these people, but there's no connection.
And they don't get it. They don't even understand why the prayer and what's supposed to be. I agree with you on that.
Right, and because there's no connection. I'm sorry. I just want to kind of.
I'm going to let you guys go ahead and dive in, and then I'll take some notes, and then I will try to catch up with you guys at the end of it. But you guys go ahead and finish. I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just saying that I think that one of the hugest downfalls of this whole construct is accountability, because everything's sort of, I don't want to say whitewashed, that kind of gives negative connotation to it, but since everything's so watered down and diluted, people don't have accountability because there's no spiritual connection to what you say you believe in. So you don't have to really be accountable for your actions, especially, and I'm not picking on Catholics, but especially if you could, go in a room and just say all your bad things to a guy in a closet, and then that's it. Yeah.
And you don't know what he's doing in the closet.
I mean, I'm not picking on Catholicism, but that always reflects me, like why you have to go through so many people to get to God when the Bible doesn't say that.
Right.
And I think that's probably one of our issues that we have with religion as being so young, is that why do we have to go through Jesus Christ for God to hear our prayers? Why do we have to kind of start there? And we also kind of have issues with some of the stories in the Bible, which is one of the things that my friends are talking about, is like, do we actually believe that that's something that truly happened? And some of them, maybe there's proof for it. I haven't done that much research into it, so I can't speak super deeply onto it, but that's just some of the things that we were thinking about.
Well, I'm sorry, James, you can say something?
I'll let you go, and then I'll follow up after you.
I was thinking about this last night, and I'm thinking, where was my mindset when I started reading this stuff? And as a child, you have to go through stages of it. As a child, you totally believed it. And as you get older, these are like lessons for you. Now, whether it's true or not, we don't know. We can't figure it out. But I know that everything that I have read especially in the Old Testament, I can't attribute. I stayed in the Old Testament for a long time because there's stories. I just loved it, but they were stories for you to realize that you weren't the only one who went. This is not the first time this has happened, and to give you what they did to get out of it. And so I think of that. When you say that, I believe that some of that stuff was true. Some of it, possibly, it wasn't. We can't figure that out.
Right. That's a valid point, and I definitely should have told my friend that when we were talking about it. But I will definitely have that conversation with her again, because I mean that's how I take it when I do read the Bible and I'm reading all the different stories that are going on. I'm like, okay, let's read in between the lines and see what I can take out of it, and then that's what I'm going to use in my daily life. Because and we talked about as well as the Bible being like a guide for how you're supposed to live. But if you've never read the Bible and you're not going through the process and you're listening to what everyone else is saying around you versus you taking the steps to do it yourself, then that's where it you kind of lose the point of religion. But with spirituality,
I think a lot of it is that the pastors are not. They really don't. I remember when I first started going to a Messianic Jewish church, when he got up. They didn't call him pastor. They call him, it'll come back to me. But when he got up, he didn't get up to talk to us about the word. He got up to tell us what the message that God had given him. He spoke to us from the word as though we had already read it. And then as I went through it, everything that I had started reading, that's where they were going. And you knew at certain times of the day to start reading this stuff. And so we are going to the churches that are keeping you at a certain point the way that they're doing it. And I can't say they're doing it on, some of them are doing it on purpose. It's called job security. But if you untie the binds, the things that keep you structured or keep you down and keep you wanting to come back and blah, 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 and I can pray over you and have you fall out and blah, 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 and basically they're pushing you. And if they can do that, then they keep their money coming in, they keep their job there, they keep all this stuff. And so you have to go to God. That's why I had to learn, even though if I went to church, what I went to church for was something totally different. Yeah, I'm looking for a word from God. I'm not looking for you to read the Bible to me because I've already read it. So I'm saying that, and I'm putting that back in your hand. But it's knowing, but not getting too arrogant with it. A contrite. What is it? You have to be careful where you put yourself, and you have to be careful how you deal with people. That's one thing the one thing I had to come into grips with. The way you treat people is a testament to you, just like we're talking about our grandparents now. And I'm talking about my parents and my grandmother. And people are still talking about them. But they're not talking about them in a light that, she was horrible, she was this, that, and the other. They're talking about their truthfulness, that my grandmother, I'm talking about my grandmother now. I love my grandmother. I knew who God was through my grandmother. But they're talking about how they were always truthful, how she was always smiling, how she always gave God credit for everything that she did, whether you want to call him God, whether you want to call him Allah, whether you want to call him, what is the word, whatever you want to call him. And but as long as you know that thing that you're calling him, that he is the superior. He is the one and only. He is at the top. And so that is what I had to find out, and God had to show me who he was. And you're going to have those steps. Yeah, so I don't feel bad because you're going to go through that, and then you'll find out. No one can tell you that he's not real.
Right, and I guess that's where, that's spirituality for you is through your religion,
Yes.
And that's interesting because, Tiffany said that she's more spiritual than she is religious, and she talked about accountability, and it's like at a state, do you have to keep yourself accountable when you're going through your spiritual context? Like, for me, if I know that I'm spiritually out of balance when I'm feeling extremely tired or overwhelmed or anxious, and that's when I know that I have to go back and rethink what have I not done this week? What have I sat down and thought and reflected on myself this week? Have I sat down and looked at what's going on internally? And then once I've done that and I've gotten it down on paper and I've figured it all out, then I'm all good. So, so it's kind of different for everyone. You kind of either are looking at the religious aspect, or you're looking within yourself, or you're looking at a higher being. But I think everyone needs something that they believe in. You have to have, there needs to be something that you can lean on when you have no one else. So,
right, that's right.
Right.
But
right.
James, what
Go ahead.
What are your thoughts?
I'm picked with you, but I think James is getting ready to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts about that, and and there's a lot of questions thrown in there, but as far as what you believe in, and I'm just gonna pick one part that really stuck out to me as far as like building yourself up. I think it's important, and I think initially a lot of religions were meant for that, to build yourself up, and like you said, or pretty much like the stepping stones of how you're supposed to live your life. But it changed into something totally different, more into a control aspect, and not an aspect of you trying to find yourself through a higher being or a higher cause. So I think, and me myself, I would say I'm more spiritual than religious, because I do believe in the aspects of learning how to do it for yourself, and just believe that whatever you put forth within your journey, within your mind, it will come to fruition, as long as you stay concentrated on those specific things that you want in your life. For me, that's how God works, or the universe works, is through your actions and through your thoughts, and then those things will come true. Because you see that's how it's working for other communities here, even in the United States. Obviously, they have a plan before they even start moving, and when they make those plans work out for them. And individually, I believe you have to learn how to build yourself up before you could really start to build that community up. Because what are you doing? What are you going to give to that community if you don't have anything within yourself to actually start to build or start to develop anything, Right. And you'll go to some of these other communities, like a Jewish community. They will literally find out what their issue is within their community, and then they'll start sending their kids to school, or even just within their own family. They'll be like, okay, this is what we need in our family, and they'll send their kids to school just for that. So when their kids come back, and the most important thing, they come back to the community, and they start to develop jobs or start to develop businesses that are circulated around whatever problems that they need. So,
right.
Exactly.
But what I found, go ahead.
Yeah, so as far as religion goes, I don't think religion is the same as what it used to be. I absolutely believe you should find out who God is for yourself, and then go with that, because there's so many different religions, and all of them are pretty much saying the same thing at the end of the day. Most of them are. I can't say all of them, but most of them are saying the same thing at the end of the day. And even when you look at Jesus as an example, you are to do what Jesus would do, whenever you walk on this earth. And that's how you get to that higher consciousness. That's how you get that direct connection with God, like he did, So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Oh, go ahead, Tiffany.
I just wanted to touch on something, because he said something. I had wrote a note down, and it seemed like a good place to insert it. But, yeah, when I was probably in my 20s, I was talking to a guy, and he was talking about charismatic churches, and he was talking about, like, the black church, but he didn't want to say that, of course, because it was mixed company. But now that I'm older, I understand what he was talking about, because it seems like now church is all about the feeling, and it has, again, going back to the connection. There's no connection there. It's like a performance. You go there to see the preacher and the choir perform, and it's like a concert.
Like a club.
Right. It's daytime club, and you just go there to try to get a feeling, and there's, like I said, the connection is completely absent. So for me, that's what kind of turned me away from going to an actual brick and mortar church, because I really want a church home. I really want to have that, but it's so hard to find a church that's not dead. It's hard to find a church that either you go in there and you spend 15 minutes reading from a teleprompter or from a PowerPoint, and the band will sing 2 or 3 songs, and then the preacher will read some Cliff Notes that he wrote down on the plane, and then it's either that or you're in church for 8 hours dancing around, and it's still you come away with the same thing, nothing.
Nothing, yeah, because we're not really we're not preparing ourselves. I'm sorry, did I interrupt you, James? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. But I mean, that's something that that I'm going through as well, is trying to find a church home. And right now I'm kind of in balance between a majority black church that's in a smaller community, and I'm also kind of going to a larger church, which is Church of the Highlands. And the way that Church of the Highlands work is that you can go to the main campus. He has multiple campuses around the southern region of Alabama. And you can go to the main campus and you can watch him preach in person, or you can go to the other campuses and watch him preach off of the screen. But at the same time, you're still getting the message regardless. And although what he teaches about is God, he gives great scriptures and reference points, and he kind of does, pinpoint the steps that he thinks you need to take to get to the certain point of whatever he's talking about. There is definitely still a loss of connection, and it's such a large church. It's like it's almost impossible to kind of to not necessarily, I guess you can build a community because there are tons of people, but it's hard to figure out who to talk to and like congregate with the people. And so with that, he's also kind of have made small groups and stuff and starting to go into small groups, and that has helped a little bit. But I'm also going to a black church, and everyone there is so open and so loving, and everyone has different talents, and everyone knows what their talents are. But it also kind of seems like it's the same, standard amount of people that are going there. Like, it's not an influx of people. Like, it's not a ton of people that are going there. It's not a different crowd every day. And it's a really nice place to kind of settle and call it a home church. But I just haven't gotten to that point of where I want to join either one of the churches yet. Because I'm really trying to figure out where I best fit.
Yeah, I know when I moved to Dallas, because I had stopped going to church. I had went to every freaking church in Alabama, and I'm just like, everybody's preaching the same thing. What their grandpappy heard from his grandpappy and his grandpa, and I'm just like, God has got to have a new word. He's got to have something. It's got to be something different. And so I had stopped going to church. And I remember James and Tip's mom, Stephanie. You know who I'm acting like I'm talking to somebody else. But I had moved to Dallas. I had moved to Dallas, and she said, we've got a church. They've got a church home there too. And I said, no, I'm not interested, Steph. I said, I'm just done with church. I said, I'm just. It wasn't like I was done with God. It was just I was done with the same old. Everybody coming and they're trying to sit in the same seat, and if you sit in their seat, they're mad at you. And I'm just like, this is insane. Can you move over? What? Because that's my seat. I usually sit there, and I'm just like, this is insane. And so I got there, and we were talking on the phone, and I was letting her talk, but I wasn't even trying to hear it. I was like, I'm really not trying to hear that stuff. I said, I've gone to every church known to man, and I said, it's not working. And so she said, well, she was looking at something on the television, and I said, oh, okay. She said, this is my pastor, and I'm just like, I'm not interested. And James and Tiffany know who I'm talking about. And I said, she said, and so as she was talking, so I muted my television, and I kept clicking. And I saw this man on television, and I had it up low, and he was saying something, and it just touched my heart. And I don't know what it was. I said, now, if this man was in Dallas, I said I'd go to his church. And she said, what channel are you on? So she went and she found the channel. She said, he is in Dallas. And I was just like, no, Stephanie, he's in Virginia. I said, he's not here. And I said, he just said he was in Virginia. She said, he just moved to Dallas. So I'm just like, not trying to hear it. And I asked God for a lot of things. Everything I asked God to, because he sent me to Dallas. And everything that he had asked me for, I had asked him for, he did it. I had an apartment before I got there. I think it was like $2,000 a week at my job. It was just everything. And I told him, I said, if I go, because I'm like, I don't know anybody in Dallas. I said, go to Dallas? Because I was going to go to Chicago. And I said, if I go, what I want you to do, I don't want to go second drawer. I said, what about my car? I said, what if something happens to my car? Because I was so accustomed to my dad doing everything. If something happened to the car, I didn't have to say anything because he was out there. When I drove up, he was looking at the tires. He was looking at the oil. He was looking at the batteries. He was looking at all this stuff. So it was just like I was so accustomed to that. I'm just like, who's going to take care of my car? I said, there's no guys out there. I'm not even thinking. And finally, I got it. And every step I took, I was just like, now, Lord, I gave in to him because I couldn't have no choice. Every time I got, because I was going to go to Chicago because that's where black people were living and they were making things and they were doing stuff. I was going to go to Chicago. Right. And I said, Lord, I'm putting my things in my car now. If this is not you, I need you to tell me. Still, nothing. I was like, God, I'm on the road now. I said, this is not you. I need you to tell me because it was like he told me, the last time he told me, he said it, the way I got it was like, I'm not telling you anymore. You either go or you're going to have to reap the repercussions from it. And so I'm going down the road, and I'm just like, Lord, if this is not you, please don't let me go here. And everything just worked out. Then I found the church. Now, the church has changed since then, but I got a lot of, when I got there, they were singing, and the choir was awesome. And I'm just like, I ain't trying to hear this. It was like the church was huge. I could have cared less. I parked my car. I walked in the church. I went and got the second pew from the front, and I said, I want him to come out. I just want to see him and see if he's real. I want to see if he's of God. And that man came out and started talking. I'm not going to call his name. Well, I call his name. It was Bishop Jakes. And he came out and talked. And I said, and my heart, I started crying. What is that? Did I hear something?
Sounds like Leah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was television. I said, I started crying. I have never gotten up in church in my life, and I got up there, and from that point forward, everything I asked God for, that I wanted to learn this, and I wanted to learn that, and I wanted Him to show me. But
let me ask you something though.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of hitting on a couple of points there. But my main point that I'm hearing is that you gave it all to God, and I feel like that's one thing that the youth struggles with is that we have control issues where we don't know how to just fit it into the universe and then just work for it,
Right.
And so through spirituality, I feel like spirituality definitely is in your control. You can determine what your makeup is going to be. You get to determine how you're going to do these types of things. You get to basically, everything is in your control. Mm-hmm. Versus if you and how the issue too is how do you give it up to God? Like, what are the signs that it has been given up to God? Because we're all searching for that feeling, and people are looking at, the youth is looking at other people and trying to figure out how.
Oh no, I got away from people because they weren't doing it. Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying, and I'm gonna let James talk about this because he may have something totally different, but. What I started doing was, my word, and I started in the Old Testament. I started in Genesis, and you get it. You ask God to open up your mind, your heart, and your spirit to get what He's trying to say. And I went from that to one thing, and I remember talking and asking questions, and nobody could answer my questions. I remember I was asking so many questions that Daddy came home one day with this big Bible dictionary, hardback. So I know he paid big money for it. I mean, it was huge. He was like, since you're studying a Bible, he said, I think this will help you. And he just took it and I was just like, oh, man, this is what I've been looking for. This is good. So I started going through the Bible dictionaries, and I started doing stuff like that. And it was just like God took me. God is going to take you one step at a time, because when you get to where you got to go, He doesn't want you to question that. He don't want you to question Him. He don't want there to be a question. People can say, is there a God? And you can say, I know it is because I've had that experience. So that is what I did. And then and my thing was, and with anyone, I will follow you as you follow God. When you stop following God, deuces, I'm gone. And so that is that. I don't know whether I answered the question or not, but it's sort of hard for me to. I was trying to go backwards and find out where because I actually started in high school. asking God questions. And I never stopped asking questions. But you can't just throw it into the ether and think it's going to happen. You got to know and believe that God is going to do this thing, but you're going to have to continue to work. And when you reach a point where it's too high for you to get over, it's too wide for you to get over, it's too for you to get around it, and you can't. You have no option. God will bridge that gap. That's what I have found. But I'm gonna leave it to James because he may have gotten something different.
Right. Yeah. So, give me that question one more time, so I'll make sure I'm answering it correctly.
Yeah, that's okay. So she was talking about giving it up to God, and within the youth community, there's always this sense of looking for that feeling. And the thing is like, how do you know that feeling has been released into the atmosphere, to the universe, and what are some things that you, I guess, have gone through to get you to believe you have released it and that you've worked hard enough for it, whatever it is, maybe, you know.
As far as giving it up to God, for me, it was the search for truth. And I take it back to what somebody told me. They said one of my mentors told me, he said, whenever you start to search for the truth will find you. And that's exactly what happened to me. I started searching and digging, and no, I don't have all the answers, but this is how I got into African spirituality, because I started digging deeper than what was just right in front of me, and then it got to the point where I was really just following my heart, and I think your heart plays a huge part.
Yes.
And plays a huge part in who you are. When you look back at it, before anything else is made in your body, your heart is the first thing that is produced, and then everything else starts to develop from there, even before your brain is constructed completely. So,
so if your heart's in it, then you're in the right place.
Yeah, if your heart is in it, then you're going down the right path. And that, I believe that's the feeling that I go off of now. It's just how my heart feels about what's going on around me, and then I'll follow that path. I think you will if you get to the point, like say where Jesus was at. You get to the point where you just know your path. You know what you're supposed to do. You know what your purpose is on this earth. I believe that type of consciousness can be reached, but it doesn't come easy, because you have to fulfill a lot of your other desires first before you can start to spread, get out of that point where you're no longer being selfish in what you want. You get to the point where you start to provide for everything else, and you take yourself out the picture, and that's what I believe that we're supposed to be. But you have to fulfill the desires of the heart first, before you get to that point, and that's my belief.
I think that's very. When you say fulfill the desires of your heart.
Yeah, because there might be a lot of things that you feel like you need to complete. And something that, I think a lot of us were removed from that since we were born because of different indoctrinations. So that's why I believe self-discovery is most important, so you can get yourself back on the right path. And from that path, you could just follow your heart. You know what I'm saying? You follow, even saying that you just want to get a better education might be one of the things that you need to get. And once you get the education, you move on to the next step. You got to really just fill your cup up and be satisfied. Because we got to remember, we're living in a physical plane, right? We don't have all the experiences of what a spirit being would have, in a sense.
Right.
Sure. We're dumbed down to basically 5 different senses. And
right.
whenever you, and this is what I read, so this is not all coming from me, but whenever you're coming out and you're in the spiritual world, you have all of these senses at once. It's kind of hard to explain. I have to get some better verbiage for you. But
when you say that this is true, I was reading something, and I'm going to let you continue. I hate to say that. When you said about the spirit, I was reading, and I'm always studying and trying to read stuff, but I came upon this book of Hebrews, and I saw something that I had never seen before. It says that God is the Father of spirits. And I was just like, they just said God. It said he was, that you're subject. No, it says you're subject. This is in, okay, I'm going to read the whole thing. Furthermore, we have had fathers of flesh which corrected us, and we have given them reverence. Shall we not much rather be in subjection into the Father of spirits and live? And I thought, oh my God, because there's more to it. But the Father of spirits, and I went to look and to find out, I was just like, this is the first time I've seen this Father of spirits, and it's only been put in there 3 or 4 times. Then you have to realize that this Bible is not complete. That's how we got into, and I want to say that so she won't think you started in the Bible. You started in the what do they call it? The King James Version. But then you use that to steer on to it used that the Spirit used that to take you somewhere else. And so you use that as a foundation, because that's what we grew up on, was that foundation. And the old people had it, because when they brought them here, they were already worshiping like this. This was already their religion. And down through the centuries, they have taken that away. And it's so sad, because you guys now, to the point where the younger, I know you grew up in church, but a lot of kids, they didn't grow up in church. They didn't. And I
right. I was saying, like they may either grew up, hanging out on the streets, or they grew up with their parents, or whatever have you.
Exactly. And so you have to realize that we have been allowed. I remember, and I'm going to say this over and over again, when it's the saying, and because I have to give credit to whom where the credit was due. I didn't get this statement from anywhere else. I didn't find. Kanye West says this. He says, they made you hate yourself and love their wealth. And that's where we are now. And we've gotten to the point where we don't even love each other. We don't even, your generation, they don't even know what love is. They think love is sex. And they keep going.
Oh, yeah, we're struggling.
Yeah. And you are
going. I'm telling you.
Huh?
Yeah, that's definitely something that I have to deal with on a daily basis, is wanting to have that connection with someone and sit here and talk about God with them and talk about where they are spiritually, but all they want to ask me is, about sexual conduct. And I'm like, this won't be a thing. Yeah. So I'm like, look, if I can teach you and show you, I can delete you. I'm not going to let that interject into my life.
Yeah, and it didn't just get there, Danielle. Do not feel, don't feel it was, I went through the same thing when I was in college. And because my parents kept us, they kept me, I did nothing. They kept me in this bubble. They kept me with their hands wrapped tight around it. I didn't know what people were doing. I just thought it was one thing after the other. And it's good, but you're out there giving your body is worth something. Your body, God wants your temple, you want you to worship your temple. And you're out there giving it away every day. And every time you give yourself away to someone, you're losing a part of yourself.
So that's where I kind of agree with James, though, where we have to definitely do some self-discovery. And I think that it's very valuable and I think it needs to be taught, for at least it would be great for the parents to sit down with their kids and ask them questions about themselves and have them find out what.
Now finish your thought.
Oh, no, I mean, I think it would be helpful for us to sit down and do that. I mean, I, for one, definitely journal a lot, and I, for one, also grew up with religion being in my life and prayer being in my life and the Bible being a guideline for how I was going to live. And so for me, that comes easily, but for someone that hasn't gone through that, like I've had a friend that whose parents kind of walked through different religion, so they've never really had one religion that they kind of stayed and focused on, which is great because you get to kind of see the differences within each of those things. But at the same time, it's like now she kind of has to sit and take time to figure out for herself what best works for her and her spirit.
Right.
Yes.
Right. But I think a lot of these kids, because I think the reason that a lot of these kids got out of religion in the first place because they could clearly see that it's not working. Like these kids are not dumb. Working. You know what I'm saying? So you keep going through generation after generation and your community is still not getting better. And then you see churches on every other and then you see churches on every single corner. And then you have to think to yourself like what's going on, because in a lot of these cases the churches are always getting better, but the people within the church are not. So why would I subject myself to that when my mom did it, my grandmother did it, my great-great-grandmother did it, and look, I'm still in a generation where I hadn't gained wealth. Like none of those generations gained wealth or anything, or the communities that they lived in are not getting better.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So what do we have to do? And this is when you have to start looking. This is why I believe you have to start looking within yourself, because there's something that's missing. There's a key part that's missing within this. And I'm not saying that it's wrong as far as the religion itself, but the practices that people are going through are not working for our people. You know, so this is where you have to start from ground zero again. And I think that's why a lot of kids are just sticking with, I'm a spiritual person. You know, I might believe in a higher cause. And they might even tell you, I don't know what that higher cause is. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what it is, but it's something. I understand that it's something that's out there, but I'm not just siding with one thing right now until I figure out what's going to work best for me. You know, so.
Yeah, because I was in there reading in the Word, and it was saying that you need to example to your children every day. And see, they're not listening. They're not learning from what you tell them. They are learning from what they see from you. And I don't know whether you were there. I don't know whether I didn't send it out because I was, even now when I think about it, it was devastating to me. But this woman, I think she was Jamaican, and she was beating her child. The child had did something, but she couldn't have done nothing that made you treat her the way you treated her. And see, this is, and then you'll go back and you'll say, God is this, that, and the other, or you'll wonder how they grew up, and they put them out there in the world, and then they're wreaking havoc on everybody else because she beat that child to that child. I mean, this girl was like, I guess she couldn't have been no more than 10 years old. She was beating her in the head. She was beating, and I said I was going to send it. I said, no, I'm not sending it. I don't want anybody to feel like I'm feeling with this. Because if I could have grabbed that woman and took her down there and put her underneath the jail, I would have done that. And I'm just like, how can you sit there and see this child crying like this and feeling this bad? And I know you see the wet on her. I know that you have gone through this. How can you do this to this child? Go ahead.
I mean, that gets a little bit off topic, but at the same time, it kind of does reach the fact that that's something that has been our generation for years.
Yes.
We came in being beaten. That's not something. It's taught. I mean, it's something that has been learned through our community.
Right.
You know.
But it ain't right. That's what we have been talking about. Yeah, that's what we were talking about. This is something.
Go ahead.
I was saying. What I'm saying is that this is, you have learned from the master. The master did this to keep you in line. and I know that the old people did it to keep you because they weren't, the laws were you couldn't make eye contact with a Caucasian person. You could, if you saw a Caucasian person walking, and these were laws, they could put you in jail and beat you to hell. They could hang you from a tree. And they could, if you saw them coming down the street, you have to walk to the other side of the street. You couldn't, the men definitely couldn't. So I remember my mother telling me, and your grandmother, telling me, she said, I remember when we were growing up, and I don't know what they were going through. She did tell me, and I can't remember right now, but the white girls, if we saw we were going down the street, and the white girls were coming down the same street that we were, and they were waiting for us to walk to the other side of the road. She said, and I just stood there, and I just squared my shoulders, and when that girl passed by me, she said, I almost knocked her off the curb, And, these are things that have been going through. This is all you know. But when you know better, you got to do better. How do you think, if it didn't work for you, how do you think it's going to work for them? It just makes you angry.
Absolutely.
That's all it does. Yeah. But I know you were getting ready to say something, but go ahead.
No, I definitely agree, and I would love for us to maybe have a podcast where we come up with different suggestions and maybe do some research on these types of things. I think that's a great podcast subject for sure.
Yeah, and we can expand on what we have been talking about because we've been talking about it. Well, don't you think so, James? James.
Sorry, I had my phone on mute. Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't hear you.
I'm here, but I mean that's a whole list of issues that I know we have to cover within our community,
right.
Especially when it goes to learned behavior and stuff like that. We
right.
definitely gotta go over that information. So yeah, that's a topic that we need to touch on some more, and
right.
and get it out there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I do. Yeah.
I love the fact. I'm going to kind of go back into what he was saying about searching for truth and, looking for the matters of the heart. What are some steps that you take to get to that point? Because I know for myself, when I'm searching for things in myself, I have to ask myself a lot of questions. I have to go back and reflect on different energies that I felt with different people, and I have to ask myself why, and I have to go back and be like, well, how was I feeling on this day? And I have to be like, well, I was feeling this way because of this, this, and this, and how can I make this better? And I also have to sit down, and I have to say my prayers, and I have to do meditation. I started doing meditation within the past month, and it definitely has helped with a lot of my anxiety and everything else as well. But what are the things that you do for your heart, I guess, so to speak, for your heart and your spirituality and your identity?
Also, get to myself as far as like meditation. Just sitting down, getting in the space to myself, and just thinking about the things that I could do to make my life better or to make the people's lives around me better, and just kind of focus on that. Again, for me, it's about looking within, and I don't believe that you could make other people happy without yourself being happy, or you can make you can't change your environment until you change your attitude. So a lot of that has to do with who you want to be first. I think that's it. I think it's who do you want to be in this life?
Yeah.
You have to concentrate on that, and how do you want to be perceived by other people? Even though
that's
sometimes
a big one.
it's not. Yeah.
That's what.
Sometimes it's not. It's not as you shouldn't have to care about what other people think, but you still want to have a good name within your community. For people to do any type of either business with you, to look for you, to even trust you, you still have to have a good name within the community. So I think that's the first step for me is knowing, hey, who I want to be. I want to be able to create wealth for my family. I want to be able to be a good person. I really want to be able to change the community.
Like a truthful person, right?
Well, when I say good person, obviously a truthful person would be within that too, but I also wouldn't want to be a mean person towards anybody.
Right.
I feel like I would like to be like a teacher within my community and just teach good values.
Right.
So those are the things that I focus on, and that's where I grow every day, and that's what my heart is really into. Because I don't think that we're supposed to suffer in this life, especially as Black people, because I believe that's what a lot of people, Black people, believe now, that you're supposed to suffer, and then your good time is going to come whenever you die and go to heaven. I don't believe that.
Not only do they believe that, they were taught this. This is what they.
Yeah.
It's just like. It's like, and a lot of the Catholics do. Some of them flog themselves so they can say, they can feel that pain. But it has nothing. You're going to go. Nothing's going to be perfect for you. But when you're going, what I learned was when I'm going through something, that having that connection with the Holy One, the one who is, was, and is to come, the one that the ultimate one. We're having that connection, and because he will speak to you, Danielle. Because I have to tell you, because I have been spoken to many, many times, and it's a voice that you will always recognize and is always there with you. And so it's having that connection will get you to know that it's not supposed to be. I mean, there's many times I walk in the store in places now, and you think I'm gonna look. I remember. Okay, I'm gonna tell you this. Now, this is because if I say it, you're not gonna know what I'm talking about. I was in London, and the Jeffrey had come, and he had brought some friends that were already there, and the guy and I was staying in this hotel. That was the only hotel that I could find that I felt comfortable in. Yes, I was paying 140 pounds a night, but the other one was 140 pounds, and you can get up from the bed and stand in front of the mirror and turn to the left, and you be in the bathroom. So, but the guy walked in, and Jeffrey he walked in, and he said, look at this, look at him. He started clutching his coat, and he was just like, ooh, you stay here? And I was just like, yes, why? Oh, I'm ready to go. He was scared because we're accustomed when I walk in a place like that, I feel like my ancestors paid half of that for you to have that, if not all. You wouldn't have had what you had you not worked our ancestors for 400 years for nothing. And then when they did start to pay them something, they were spending pennies, and everything they gave them, they were taking something taking something away from them on the back end. So don't walk in. You have to know that your God owns all of this, and therefore, if he's the king, that means that you're the prince or whatever. Then that means that it's you have inherited that. Not just know it in your head, you know it in your heart. I don't let nobody. You ain't going to talk to me any kind of way, but guess what? I am not going to talk to you in any kind of way. I'm going to approach you in respect, and I expect that in return. If you don't, then if you want to get down dirty, if you want to do a game of word Jeopardy, I can do the word Jeopardy with you. But you don't have to do that. Sometimes God, I remember I was in this place, and this man kept telling me, we're not going to do this, and it was due to me. And it's not going to happen, and I was getting ready to eat him up. And God had told me when I walked in just to be quiet. And I was sitting there, and I was getting ready to eat him up because he was talking to me in a way that I didn't speak. I wasn't talking to him, and you're not going to talk to me that way. And something told me to shut up. When I was getting ready to speak, that same little voice said, shut up. It didn't say be quiet. No, it said shut up. And so I got quiet. Yeah, I got quiet, and everything I had asked him for in the beginning, it turned because my prayer was to God, I need you to meet me at the door. I want you to be there before I got there. I want you to fix their minds. I want you to I walked in knowing this. and everything I told him that I wanted, and he told me he couldn't give me. He said, unless you want X, Y, and Z. And I'm just like, I asked you for X. And I'm thinking this to myself, but I didn't say anything. I said, okay, I can take that. I'm just like, okay, dumb. I already told you that's what I wanted. We didn't have to stand here for an hour and a half for you to come back and tell me that. But God. So that is, yeah. So what I'm telling you is, it's your, when they say your heart, nothing beats without your spirit. Nothing, you don't work without your spirit. So if God is the what is the thing that Scripture says? He's the all spirits. He's in control of all spirits. Then you know that He already know you, because before He formed you in your mother's womb, He knew you. You see what I'm saying?
Oh,
He gave you that gift when you got here, Danielle. You were that little girl. You still same little girl. You were born with that gift. When James got here, he was born with that gift. When Tiffany got here, she was born with that gift. And so that's what you need to be looking for, is that gift that God gave you. And it's something that you've been doing. Your mom had moved, you were living in the room with your brother, you were doing your homework by yourself. I know, because I used to get on your mom about it all the time. You were straight A student from kindergarten to high school. And no one you can, because that was a gift that you had, because people loved you because of God had already touched you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it was.
I think God continues to touch me, and He definitely. Yes. What I'm realizing is that when I sit still and I process, He comes around and He confirms it. He confirms it through the people that I talk to, and He confirms it through whenever I do decide to get up and go to church. I'm sitting here and I'm listening to the preach, and I'm like, oh, I know you're going to preach on that today, but I've been doing that for the past 2 weeks. Okay, take a nip, God. You know, so that's something that you definitely have to kind of work within yourself and figure out what is going through the universe. So, and I think that's something that is instilled in me. I think it's been instilled in our family, because when you think about it, I mean, we all are very generous, servitude. I don't know if that's a word.
But you know what? I'm going to tell you this. When James was born, I remember going to the hospital. Like, I remember going to the hospital with you. We'll talk about that in a minute. James was the loudest baby in the room. Now he's like the quietest, but people, it's like E.F. Hutton, people see him. I remember we were at Trinity's wedding, and my thing is, now, I know these people looking at him, these girls, one of these, how do I call them? These girls, we'll just leave it like that. And they want to get with him. And I said, this girl come by here, I'm going to put my foot down, I'm going to trip her up. But I looked at James, he wasn't even interested. James wasn't even there. I didn't have to do anything. He was okay. You understand what I'm saying? That's why you have to see people. You have to see them and not react to what because I've seen people, they got the hate in their eyes, and if you're not careful, it'll transfer to you, and then you want to be mean, but then you got to turn that around into something else.
Right. And so I wanted to say, before we stray too far away from what you were saying,
okay.
So God speaks to us differently because we're all different. And we see the world differently, we perceive things differently, and we hear differently. I feel that I'm more spiritually led, so when it comes to how I connect spiritually, I pray and I meditate. I love to read. I'm an avid reader. I've always been an avid reader. And it always made me so happy, Danielle, to see you being an avid reader, because you used to read a lot as a little girl too. I love to read, but that's just not where my connection comes from. My connection is more spiritual, so I have to meditate, and God speaks to me through my meditation. Right. And sometimes, it'll be just a sensation, or I have deja vu. I have lots of deja vu, and when I'm having deja vu, it lets me know that I need to either revisit something or I'm on the right track. And at that moment, I can kind of feel, okay, I need to dig a little deeper, or I need to keep pushing into this direction that I'm going. Even when my son passed away, like everybody was going through, we kept it very public, because we wanted to invite people to pray with us. But in my spirit, I had already been given the answer. I already knew what was going to happen. But I still need to go through that whole process for the sake of my family, my husband, the rest of my family. So I just wanted to say that, God speaks to us in different ways, and you have to learn for yourself because you're a young woman. You have to learn for yourself how you can receive that the word from God.
Right.
See, that's
and this
confirming stuff right there as well.
And you being on this phone with us is a reason for that. Just Tiffany and them, we all grew up together like this, and I know but we have to keep that link open so that we can grow together. But go ahead. I know you're.
I was just going to say too, really quickly, that right there, what Tiffany was saying is figuring stuff out for yourself and what works for you. That's something that I have been telling myself for the past year and a half is that this is my journey, and I have to figure out for myself what's going to work for me. I can't sit here and continue to let what other people are doing interrupt what my spirit needs. So I've really had to kind of cut those boundaries, and I've really had to really dive deeper into the Word. And thank God on Stephanie finally it had sent me a study Bible, and I was like, praise the Lord. So I've been really going through that for the past few weeks, and I mean it's very powerful, and it's something that I'm can't wait to see where it takes me and dive more into it. And I have truly enjoyed these past 2 weeks diving more into it and asking myself more and more questions and having these discussions with you guys, because it's really has opened my eyes, and this might be the path that I kind of want to go on. Maybe I want to do more research on this.
I was going to say,
but it'll go up. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was saying it goes back to James's goal of bridging that gap between the generations.
Yes.
Because, if this conversation hadn't started, who knows where you'd be today, because obviously it's had a huge impact on you just in the past 14 days. So just imagine if that first conversation never took place. So
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
It's definitely the whole world for me, especially as well as figuring out, and really kind of giving me the confidence to know that I have the strength and I have the wisdom and I have the knowledge to do these things for myself. So I really have been trying to figure that out. like, can I actually do this? Like, do I have the power to be as independent as I say I can be? Can I work for myself? Can I write for myself? And I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, because I remember
that's the whole point.
Yeah, I remember there's a scripture in the Bible that says that God would have done so much more. It's you limit him by your faith. God is so much bigger than what we think he is. We limit him by our own experience, but he's so much greater than that. If you just, what I had to learn and ask God was to teach me how to surrender. I didn't know how to surrender to him, and it was because I was always trying to take care of myself, and I was trying to make sure that everybody else was okay. And if you take that away from me, then what do I have? And he was just like, you have more than what you think you have. You know what I'm saying? Even though, and I was telling, I think I told James this. I don't know what I told Tiffany this. Where I'm living right now, I met Tank, and then I met his mom. I met his kids, and I was just like, at first I was just like, I'm never going to go and live in the country, blah 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 blah. I met his mom. His mother, you know what? She gave me $30,000 to get over here and to be in this place, to be in this place, to be where I am, to get it moved, and to do all this stuff. She gave me that money, and it wouldn't have worked if it wasn't in our family to give. You understand what I'm saying? You got to have. I remember telling God, Go ahead. I'm sorry, James.
No, I was saying we're getting closer to the hour. I want to get to a good closing point. So we,
Okay.
So I know if Danielle had anything else that you want to put on the table first, but yeah.
Okay. No, I mean I think that what we have here is something wonderful, and I think that people definitely need to dive more into their spirituality, and they need to figure out what it is within themselves. I think that definitely would be great to have that conversation with your family and see what gifts maybe someone in your family has had. I know that within our family we have tons of pastors and speakers and teachers. We have military. We have writers and bloggers and everything. And through that, you kind of figure out, you have to know where you come from to know where you're going. And it's wonderful that I've been able to witness and see all those things through the people. They don't probably know that I'm watching, but I'm definitely watching you guys. And I'm definitely following suit. And I think that's something that the younger generation needs, is we need to make sure that we're staying accountable with ourselves and taking the time to reflect and to talk with our families about these things.
Right. And another point to add on to what you're saying, we as the leaders of this next generation coming forward, we have to be present for those people that are out there, because it's our responsibility. I mean, Danielle, you and I are in the same generation, but I'm older than you. I mean, you could be my own child. I was a teenager when you were born. So, but that is to say that I have a responsibility to you, even though we're in the same generation, to be present so that you can ask questions if you have them, or to get ideas if you need them. And that's that's a responsibility that I feel like I haven't been living up to. But I'm here today to commit to you and to the rest of the family to fall into that role, because I realize that that's what my role is, or part of what my role is.
Yeah,
I agree. I believe.
I think that's something I have to do, too, is we have to step out of our comfort zone. So that's something for me that I've been working on, is stepping out of my comfort zone. And I've just been telling myself so long, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because it's the only way that you're going to grow. And the amount of stuff I've had within a year and a half is mind-boggling to me. Like, it's not necessarily scary, but it's one of those things where I know that it's the Lord, and it's spiritual, and it's universal, and it's such a great feeling, and I wish everyone could kind of feel that feeling, But I think that's kind of where and why I am on this podcast, just to kind of, direct and help and assist in any way that I can.
And to grow, we're all here to grow, and that's what God didn't come into a situation unless He's coming to affect the place. And God, that's what He wants us to do, is to affect wherever we are, whatever we're doing, we got to affect the place. Go ahead, James. I'm sorry. You were getting ready to say something. That's just,
No.
Filled up.
Well, I think that this would be a great point to maybe say a prayer. I haven't had a prayer come into my heart, but if any of you guys definitely have, I think this would be a really great place to end it and start with a prayer.
And I want to make a statement at the end and just tell you what I remember hearing Bishop Jake say one time. You cannot win the fight. You can't win the battle if you don't show up for the fight.
That's true.
And my thing was, I would go, and so that I wanted to end it in that, and I'm not going to go any further. Yes, Lord.
All right, I think it's probably appropriate for James and I to say our closing piece, and then we can leave it to Danielle to wrap it up, since this was her topic and she spearheaded it.
Okay.
Okay.
So also, since I missed my cue earlier, because sometimes I just mom brain. Okay, that's my excuse from here on out. But I hope that I thank you all for joining us and the family and on the conversation couch, and I hope that we were able to give you some food for your soul, open up your mind, get you to see and think in a different way. And I hope that we were able to affect some positive change and give you something to chew on for the future. And again, my goal is to help set those building blocks in place so we can have a plan to improve our family, starting with the family unit and then moving out to the community at large.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm really excited about this whole conversation that we have here, man. Like, this is like I said, when you're working on something, the universe will work for you, or God will work for you. And this is what I wrote down. This is what I asked for, and I can see it coming together, coming to fruition. It's starting to grow a little bit, and this is, I know I'm moving in the right direction. So I would say, in this life, we are taught many things, but I challenge you to find what matters most, and that is Gnosis. Know your past so you can operate in the present to secure the future that you always dreamed of. Danielle.
And so much for having me on here again. And I would just like to say that hopefully may we all continue to grow in ourselves and in the Word and in the present, and may we take what we learn and use it for our younger generation that is coming up.
Amen. Who's going to do the prayer?
Paula.
I'll do it. So,
okay.
Lord,
okay.
we come to you in agreement, Lord, spiritually in agreement.
Mm-hmm.
We thank you for the progress that you're making in our family. We see the changes that are happening in our family, one person at a time, Lord, and we thank you for that opportunity. We thank you for the chance to seize that opportunity, Lord. We ask that you continue to strengthen our hearts and minds as one family, Lord. We ask that you help us meet these goals so that we can reach out to the community and help make some changes that become real, Lord. Let this not be just words. Let our words become action, and so that we can see the fruit of our labor. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Lord. And we're going to end tonight. We have enjoyed you. We hope you enjoyed yourself, and I hope you've been blessed because I have been. And we will see you again next week. And until then, stay blessed. Good night.
The done recording?
Usually it says when we're done.
Right.
Paula?
Somebody hung up. I think Paula might have hung up. So.
We might be still recording.
Yeah, I think she pressed the wrong button.
Oh. Well, she'll call back in, and then we'll just have to edit this last part out.
Right.
Wait, can she edit? Can she go through and edit like the podcast?
She can.
That's good. I was wondering. Okay, cool. So I was like, I love it. That was really good, guys.
I thought so too.
I'm sitting here.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like take it all in.
Yeah, my daughter has this thing where she can tell when I'm eating, she can tell when I'm trying to go to the bathroom, and she can tell when I'm busy trying to do this, and so that's when she always wants my attention. So I was listening, but it was killing me that I couldn't really join in because she was downstairs losing her mind.
All right.
Oh, hello. I'm sorry.
Hello?
Let me hang up.
You're gonna have to end the thing.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hey,
the podcast.
can you hear us?
I'm trying to end it.
Oh, okay.
We done had a whole conversation on it. You have to take the ending off of it.
I'll take it off. I hung up by mistake, and it's raining over here, so I don't know what happened. So I guess we'll have to just hang up. Hello?
Yep.
Okay. That's okay.
We're not gonna lose the conversation if we just hang up.
Paula.
Oh, she was serious.
I didn't hear.
Hello?
I didn't hear hang up. No, stop the recording, Paula, before we hang up.